Welcome back, everybody, to the Crypto Insider. My name is Paul Sampson, coming to you on a Saturday afternoon here in March as we about to close off this quarter, the first quarter of the year. So got a lot to cover here. As always, I'm going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's honestly a little bit of an interesting pattern I see on Ethereum that could lead to some potential downside here. And obviously that would lead to overall market downside if we see it. We're going to get into that here in a bit. I think that we still see a little bit more of an upside at the moment. It's one of those times where, potentially we get a little short term, green, but it's a time to be cautious, right? And we're going to have some lines in the sand on where we can start to, anticipate maybe more upside once those levels are flipped. I'll cover that, especially on Bitcoin. Then we're going to take a look at some altcoins, right? So we're going to take a look at Rose once again, Oasis, right? I'm going to give an update on that since we last spoke about it as it was breaking out of that range. XRP again as well, Cardano, Sushi Swap, and Avalanche as an update also. So let's just jump right on into the charts. Okay, so Bitcoin price action, pretty range bound, right? I think we can all agree on that at the moment, right? We've been basically where the price is right now, 65,000 has been where we've been since March 4th. If you were to, close your eyes on March 4th, wake up again today, you'd be in the same position. So, we've had a lot of chop along the way here. And, for me as a trader, these have actually offered up a ton of opportunities as far as day trades would go and into potential swing trades. These trades even up here, or these moves up here, were super technical. I might actually do a breakdown video on pretty much the overall last few weeks here and just kind of showcase what we were looking for live, basically, as all this kind of transpired. And, not to say like, oh, we knew exactly where the market was going to head or anything like that, but we had a strategy in place for that time frame that really didn't shock me at all when we saw a lot of these moves, and actually was able to capitalize on a lot of these shorter term plays as well. And last one so far actually being this one, took a few shorts this week, took the long here, took the short again at this region, the short again up in this area right here as we came up and we swept that previous day high. When we were looking at this price action as it was kind of unfolding, I put on Twitter, it was like when Bart, the old Bart Simpson pattern where you get that move up and you get a little consolidation and you get the the drop back down basically. Here we had a situation where we ended up catching a potential long area where you had the sweep of the previous day low. We ran it up to previous week low, right? And this was an area where I was looking, if we were to flip that, I was looking to run it back to the weekly open. This is effectively what we essentially came in. We front ran it a little bit, but we had another short trade up here as we came up. We closed our day. What did we do? We came up and we swept the previous day. So now we had a short trade where I actually took pretty much overall, on this day trade here specifically, I took basically the overall daily high and I ran it down and I closed my position right at the previous week low, looking for a back test of that, which was a nice trade there. And then I pretty much sat and I waited for the next opportunity as far as the short-term plays would go, right? I'm just kind of like outlining the last couple of days of price action here. We had left a daily naked point of control from Wednesday behind, which is a volume target essentially. And if you were just to take the fixed range volume profile tool and pull that for Wednesday's price action, this would be the range. I'll go ahead and kind of highlight this, right? And you can see that we left that region, the time frame closed off. So now this point of control is left naked essentially. And this is just an inefficiency in the market. Basically, it's just a high volume target that's very likely to come back to, especially once we re-enter the range. And as you can see that was essentially where we've come down and bounced off of, giving us another long opportunity to the upside, which I actually took this long. There was also a harmonic pattern at play here as well, which is a bullish bat. All right, so even though the price action on the way down seemed a little scary and was pretty bearish, we came down into it right at that daily naked point of control. And then I was looking for I'm currently in this position right now, looking for the B leg up here, right? So back at like $66,000, and I'll close that trade out there. But what can we be looking for, out of Bitcoin next? Can we look and anticipate for Bitcoin in the next coming days and potentially weeks? Line in the sand is the previous all-time high. Cut and dry, easy thing to look at, right? The 69,200, zoom that puppy out to a weekly time frame. You can see that we have yet to close a weekly candle above. All we've done is wick through. And honestly, that's not a good look. And one thing I want to really hammer on here is that if we close March below that, that's really not going to be a good look, because what that is going to be looking like essentially is a similar situation like we had over here, right? You had the quarterly high, you came up and you swept that quarterly high, you got a pullback. Well, what did we do here? That was a 65K top back in 2021. And then you came up and you swept those highs on a quarterly candle, basically. It's not a good look, right? That's big reversal potential, right? So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. So we really want to start to see us living above that previous all-time high, cut and dry, simple as that, for any more continued upside, right? So in the interim, we're probably going to see some more up and down, right? As far as upside, if we clear that previous all-time high, I think 80K is the next target. Until then, I really target this box below us. And it really doesn't even have to be the end all be all, but this would just be an area where I, would foresee a decent bounce opportunity out of. Maybe that's where we could pull back to and get the continuation to the upside. I have this marked as the 382 Fibonacci retracement. Okay. And it's like last week, I believe I showcased it. It's if you were to pull a Fibonacci retracement, right, from the $15,000 low to the $74,000 high, the 382 comes in right here. We've got the February naked point of control comes in here. There's a weekly level of horizontal support here as well. A couple other things, but just in general, I mean, these two alone are just enough to kind of give that some credence. We've also got the monthly average of price for March, basically, that comes in here. Is the average of February that tends to get hit the next month. So we still got a few more days of that. It doesn't have to get hit in March, and it's just an area to be aware of as well. So it's just a stacking confluence here. I do have obviously the gold pocket of the overall move up marked out, the yearly average. That's not necessarily you're concerned with at the moment. But for me, just taking it level by level, I'm looking for a potential move down in this box down below us, right? For that next, potential fresh entries, and just see how things kind of react down there, right? So there's a lot of support here. You've got the previous swing high from the ETF, excitement back here, like 49K. It comes in right, I got this whole box area highlighted here because, just in case we just kind of wick through this region a little bit, but find support. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And this would make sense to come out and, kind of take out these lows, stop out anybody that's, got into positions here, move their stop losses up, things like that. But yeah, in the coming, days here, I think that we see a move up. Honestly, I'm targeting back to the previous all-time high. Now, will we flip it is the question. I don't know, but at least a move, basically to it. And honestly, if we get the rejection here, this is where I'm looking for that next move down, right? So far we're basically, we have the recipe here for a potential downtrend to be, really formed up here. Doesn't have to be an overall downtrend, but obviously we've been in a small downtrend here, already pulled back. Let's just see, 17, 18%, on brand for a pullback in Bitcoin. And even if we pull back to these levels down below us, about 30% still on brand for, just a normal reversal after especially seeing, pretty much a 300% rally overall. And then even just from this move up here, it was a 45%, push. And the reason I'm looking for potential for this is a couple things, right? So, you've got the sentiment around that, I think everybody is, whenever we approach these levels, it's just, it gets very overly excited, which, once again, I'm a crypto trader. I'm an investor. I've been in this market for, several years, and nothing would make me happier than to see Bitcoin, push higher. But what I look for is, the potential for what you can, honestly play out here. And even though I do see the overall move continuing up, pulling back to these levels would be nothing, right? And then if we look at a local gold pocket from the overall high currently to the current low, gold pocket retracement, right, which is very normal to come back into, lines up perfectly with the previous all-time high there. So once again, just stacked resistance at the moment. Looking to flip that for upside, simple as that, like closing 4-hour candles again, maybe a daily candle, definitely a weekly candle. And that, the week is over tomorrow. So maybe we do that and then like things can change a little bit. But at the moment, this is what I visualize. Now, this small little move here on Bitcoin, 3-4%, this would be about 10% move. We're seeing some pretty decent, pushes from the altcoins during these times. Okay. And I think that will continue. I did want to touch on ETH before I cover those other altcoins really quickly. And it's just one of those things that I always have to, in markets in general, like we're always at risk of, in the stock market. I feel like when the SPX and S&P pulls back, it can affect the market and things like that. Like when in crypto, you're like almost always at a caution with Bitcoin pulling back. And sometimes when Bitcoin pulls back, it doesn't, necessarily hurt the altcoins because you'll see a little bit of an outflow and into the altcoin market. It's very rare though. Most of the time when Bitcoin pulls back, it's not great for the whole market, right? So it's just something that, if we're going to see that move down to like 55 and 51 that I just pointed out, that box area, it's not going to bode well for the altcoins, but that doesn't mean that before we get there, that move that I just showcased where we go up to a previous all-time high, and if the rejection is had there, that could last the next couple of days, maybe another week. It could, and in that time frame, the altcoins could still hit some pretty major targets pretty quickly. So what a lot of people end up doing is they'll sell out, which is, if you're taking profits, great. If you're in these things for the long haul and like years is your horizon, then these moves shouldn't affect you in the sense of like making you like, should I do this, should I do that? But if you're going to try to capitalize on, selling the rips and buying the dips, essentially, I'm just pointing out areas that I'm looking for, that I'm aware of, and what I'm doing. Obviously do what you got to do, right? So Ethereum. So I accumulated a lot of Ethereum at $1,200 back in this region, right? I did not get the exact low. I got $1,200 average. I was happy with it. And I actually sold off about 75%. I'm still holding 25%, but I sold off 25% of my ETH holdings, threw it in cash for a few days at 32.80, right? And that's when I was looking for that potential bat harmonic. And obviously we blew through that region, right? So that was pretty much kiboshed. So for me, I did not chase this little rally at all. Obviously, I didn't buy back in fear. What I did was I took those, some of them, not everything. I still kept a decent amount in cash just in case we got a pullback, but I dumped a good amount into Dogecoin at that time. This was like end of February, right? So I dumped a good amount into Dogecoin, flipped it for 100% right away, pulled that back out, dumped that in cash. So like on the potential, or not even potential, on the, let's just say, where was that, around that region, the 25% that I missed on ETH at the time, I flipped a good portion for 100% in Doge, and I threw it back in cash. I dropped some into XRP and Litecoin. I think XRP I still am holding for a little bit longer to see if anything plays out there. The Litecoin one I ended up selling off for like 20% gain, dumped it back in. I took a little bit more of a aggressive approach on there, and I'm still in a ton of other altcoins. For me, I'm starting to, I've de-risked a little just for a potential big pullback, a big fresh entry, right? In case we get these boxes here. That's just how I do it, right? So I still got skin in the game overall. But if we do come back now, I've saw 200% gain on a big portion of my portfolio, just about. I cashed out. Yes, it wasn't the exact high, but basically we're back. I think we're okay with $200, $150 more than where we were, which is whatever. I'm not really worried about it. And if ETH just leaves me in the dust, I still got my 25% holdings of it, and I'll just find something else, right? Like that's just how my mind works at this point. I don't get married to a certain project or a certain coin. It is what it is. There's always another opportunity. But I do want to point out a couple things here. So similar to Bitcoin, I've got the untapped monthly average, which it looks like we tapped it, but we did not. We've got a February naked point of control sitting here. So once again, volume target left behind from last month. And you got the overall low to high 382 retracement, right? So this is just generally when you got a really strong uptrend, you get a shallow pullback. You don't always go for the gold pocket, right? Or the 0.5 even. You get that 382. Everybody kind of tends to wait for lower, but generally this is where if you see a bounce here, you'll get that continuation, even though this would be a pretty big pullback, 30% overall, not too much farther from where we are now. So this is the region I'll be paying attention for. I think we got the quarterly VWAP coming in right there too, as you can see that red line. Now that pattern I was going to tell you that I'm going to tell you about here, it does go back to my BAT situation, right? The harmonic. Once again, if you want to learn more about that, theharmonictrader.com. Scott Carney, shout out to him. Magic Internet Money does a lot of harmonics as well. I'll touch on them here and there, but I'll just kind of explain this one here. So the original idea I had was back here, right, where it was a 886 retracement, which was a just normal bat harmonic, right? This is an area where if you were to, kind of take a position here, the stop loss really would be like above that X, which would have been taken out if you were looking for a short, or just in general. I wasn't necessarily shorting ETH, but this is where I sold out, assuming we'd get a pullback, and we did not, right? However, this has now formed a alternative bat, right? So that's given us a 1.13 extension into the 1.25 extension. So it's coming in right there perfectly, still within range, 1.19. And all that means is a sequence of Fibonacci that's all just kind of gathered together, right? But this pattern has a couple of very distinct targets, and the two of them are the 382 and the other one is the gold pocket. Now, the reason the gold pocket stands out really in my eyes on this is for two other reasons. So on top of it being the 382 and the gold pocket for targets, you're also targeting your B leg of the pattern as well. So that stacks up usually around that gold pocket anyways, but confluence there, right? All the way back down to that B leg, you got your gold pocket. And then the one thing that really stands out is we still have the untapped yearly average for this year. So when I point these out, we just like last year for Bitcoin was like 27,000 ish, right? Was the untapped average. Started the year at 15K. We pretty much ran right to 28 within the first few months. Whatever. It's not. It doesn't have to hit. It's not necessarily something that's a guarantee, but it is just something that, once again, when I'm looking at certain things, this is a very valid pattern in my opinion at the moment. 382 is could very well be the target we hit and we turn around from. So it's just something to manage, but this is interesting, right? So we could and this doesn't mean we don't range around up here for a hot minute and then come down and meet these levels, because we very well could do that as well, just over time, right? I'm not saying this is going to be just a complete nuke to the downside, but it's interesting and it's something I'm going to be aware of now. And you've gotten the rejection up here pretty harshly, so I would say that this pattern is very well in play at this point. So yeah, so keeping this in mind, still be looking for areas here. I'm not going to be greedy and only looking out for, if we go back to sub 2K only is when I'm going to buy all my ETH back. I'm still going to probably pick some up in this region, right? So for me, I sold out at 32.80. I'm just kind of giving you the my mindset on how I approach the market here, right? So first of all, I said if the market runs away from me, whatever. I already, made some profit here. I'll find a new entry on ETH, I promise, even if it's higher, right? But I'm not going to buy into the big green candles, right? I just can't. So for this, I sold 32.80 was the average I sold out at my 75% of my ETH. If we come back into this region, it's not a huge discount, but hey, I'd be looking at a 12% discount when I purchased it back if I was to go all in here. I'm probably not going to go all in here. I will probably wait, designates a portion at this region here, and then I'm going to see if we come down lower. Maybe I'll do 50% here and hold 50% here. And that's, once again, it's just not my whole portfolio. It's just the allocation I've allocated towards Ethereum. So it's just diversifying, right? Still have other altcoins, Gala Games and Near Protocol and Sushi Swap and 1inch and all these other ones that have been doing really well on the other side of that. But this is just my bigger, safer plays. So anyways, I hope that makes sense. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I'm approaching things, what I'm visualizing here. And this is a big deal, and it lines up really well with that. And I bring this up because this would be an overall, and once again, not trying to incite some crazy FUD or scared, fear tactic or anything. This is just an honest potential, thing we could see here. First thing anybody's going to say is no chance, right? The whatever is, and it takes nothing for an article to come out tomorrow that the SEC is considering ETH a security again, right? And then and when that article comes out, the market starts to pull back, whatever, and it's just everybody blames that. Or maybe the ETF for ETH also gets this, kicked down the road again. I don't know. I don't know what the news will be if it even happens, but just keeping this in mind is a very technical setup that I've been looking for this region regardless, even from that initial bat, right? But yeah, this one is interesting. So just keeping it in mind. It would not be great for the entire market, obviously, if ETH pulled back to that region. And that, like I said, that'd be an overall 50% retracement just about. And from where we are now, another 40. So sounds like it could never happen. Maybe it doesn't. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. It's just something that I keep in my mind, right? So like a reason being for that is that when we do start to get pullbacks, it's tough because a lot of people will always be like, oh, I'm buying the dip or I'm going to wait. I'm going to split that up, right? So it's just, I guess, a DCA kind of idea, but I have two specific areas. I'm not going to DCA here and then like $5 later. And then I got two specific targets. And then once again, I bring these things to your attention because if you wake up 2 months from now and we're down in this area here, right? And it doesn't matter where you look at or how you look at it, this would still be an uptrend overall, honestly. But the news would be so scared and whatever, like this would be if you missed the move on ETH, like this is the area, right, that I'd be looking for. I know that I have the box here for fresh entries at the moment, but this would be like if I was like, I totally missed this whole move on ETH, this is where I'd be looking to get in again. Back down under 2,000 would be the ideal area, as far as if we're looking at a continuation of a bull market to new all-time highs, which I do think we will get. But anyways, that's the technical moves I'm looking at on ETH. Nothing really too out of the ordinary. I just want to point that out on a larger scale, just to keep that in the back of our minds. At the same time, the altcoins can still move, right? So if we're going to get a little bit of a upside out of Bitcoin, maybe back to the all-time high in the next couple of weeks here. And I say that because even in a few days time frame, you can see like 30 and 40 and 50% moves. It's quite crazy. So you kind of have to have your ducks in a row and kind of have a strategy to some degree. Everybody always says have a strategy, and everything I just said is what that means to me. So it's, meaning that I'm not jumping in at all-time highs. I'm not looking for, and if I am jumping in, it's not everything, right? I'm taking some risk. I'm looking at maybe some altcoins that look like they're going to break out. Obviously, we did have some altcoins that broke out, but when you're looking at Ethereum, or pumping past up to $4,000, I mean, to me, I was like, I can't buy Ethereum at 4,000 right now. Like after that rally, like it's just that's just not how I'm built, right? And, it's like got to look for the pullback, got to look for the areas there. And then for me, I also accept that every day we get new data, and you have to incorporate that. That's what I try to do. All right, let's talk alts. The reason you're all here. All right, so Rose, we were talking about this initially when we were down in this region. I think this is an old monthly open, so I was going to take that off. But we were definitely here, right? We were actually flipped that monthly open, and that was where we were looking to buy. Otherwise, we were looking for a pullback into these regions. So same thing I just went over. When we were living out this price action live, it was, hey, I'm going to look to buy here, and I'll kind of allocate some on the side. And if we go lower, I'll look here, or be prepared if you do buy here, that I am going to have to accept that there's a technical reason why we may continue lower, right? And that's like one of those things where it's just, you got to shift your mindset to where you're not panicking if the price starts dropping after you bought it. And even if you bought the dip here and it could have kept dipping, but then on the other side, instead of waiting for just this level here and missing out on all this, we got some skin in the game, right? So this is where we bought at. And yeah, so nice rally here. Yearly open is where we look to be flipping at the moment. Basically, at the overall analysis, we broke out of this range, and we have a lot of upside here. So I'm looking for 22 cents here, macro gold pocket, yearly average of price, untapped. Generally, unless I don't update it on accident, when you see an asterisk on my chart like this, it's an untapped level. So meaning that that's a key level to, so to speak, basically. So we got untapped yearly average of price coming in right at that low confluence. So I'm sure we'll get a little bit of a speed bump, but honestly, I anticipate Rose to go pretty decently here, obviously barring Bitcoin. So it's another one of those things, right? Well, maybe we come up, we tag this region, we get another pullback, maybe Bitcoin gets a pullback. So you either have to be aware of that coming into it, or prepare to maybe take some profits at these levels so that you have some left on the side to buy, to scale back in on a pullback if you're going to be managing it that actively. Otherwise, leave it for the long haul, do whatever, right? But I'm targeting 22 cents, 27 cents, and then 35 cents here for Rose. XRP, nothing's really changed here. Still pretty much just heavily range bound, really tightly in this region here. Still just a sequence of higher lows along the way. I still target this dollar area, right? In this gold pocket, in this untapped monthly level, this little boxed region here, which I won't overlook this one first, right at $1. And all this cluster up here, this is what I see here. And then near term to me is like next coming months, right? So I'm willing to be patient and wait this out. And once again, this is not where all of my portfolio is parked, but I got a decent amount in here anticipating a potential, 100% flip, right? So from where I got it, I picked it up at 50 cents. Made some short-term trades along the way. We got to push up here to like 75 and then right back in, right? So this one is just got people patient at the moment. One thing I have to say, is if we do get that pullback out of Bitcoin, just like anything, right, you get another drop. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And as I look at Bitcoin, and if I'm like really formulating a plan or an idea here that, let's just say if we see Bitcoin go to 69K and get the rejection that I was talking about earlier, and we come back down to 51, right? Let's say that takes another week for it to unfold. If in that like time frame we get a huge pump out of altcoins, and XRP was to like just rally out of nowhere, like up to this dollar, like the going, it's almost a statistic at this point, but it is like pretty accurate in the past, which I don't like say like this is like a guaranteed thing, but generally when we get a big move out of XRP, it's like one of the last movers is what it said. And once again, I won't take that as my main, analysis, but I'll be paying attention around those times. And if we see that, like that would be a really big flag in the air at the time. But either way, on a technical world, I'm looking for this move up into that dollar region, macro gold pocket. We got an untapped quarterly level up here. You've got all kinds of stuff. So in this regional area, I wouldn't just look for a specific dollar specifically or a specific penny, but yeah, I'll be looking for this region here and into that $1.11 area. All right, Cardano had a very nice break here, right? So broke the range, ran it up. Similar thing, right? When we're talking on strategy here, we and I say I don't know. I guess when I'm saying I'm talking to you all, but when I was pointing out this range on one of the Crypto Insider episodes, right? We were looking at this back test of the range here. And it was one of those times where it's like, once again, you pay attention because if it gets back in the range, starts closing, well, we were looking back down to this gold, this point of control, which at the time I think was a gold pocket too, like pretty much stacked up, right? So that would have been like the ideal area. But once again, you're looking at a potential breakout back test. You have to anticipate higher, but at the same time, when you're living that out live, right? We don't know that the price is going to go up. Maybe you allocate a little to the side to like if we do get that pullback, or once again, you just prepare mentally and say, all right, I bought here. I know it can go here. So if it does, I'll either have to just sit underwater. You got to make those decisions in your mind, right? Or decide for yourself, or decide to cut a stop loss and then try to re-enter, or, even do where you cut the stop loss here, you take a small loss here because you are risking, that maybe it goes lower or whatever. And you cut your small loss here, and then you wait for the confirmation once again. You can even take the same exact entry, right? Say you came down here, you entered, you put a stop loss below the low, would have wicked you out here. Maybe you took let's just see what it would have been. Just give it an example. 5% loss, that would have, not been fun at the time, especially if just to see it rally back. But if you don't know that that's going up, you protect yourself with a 5% loss instead of watching a 20% drawdown. If we would have went to that gold pocket, that point of control, right? But then otherwise you have to get back in. So yes, you lost 5% doing nothing. But if you played every play like that, you will probably come out a lot more on top, right? Where it's like, instead of holding 25% pullbacks at times, because those do happen. This is actually a good example right here, right? If anybody was buying right at this, let's take an example here, right? So we ended up moving up, boom, key level, yearly average of price, right? I would have been looking at this saying, all right, if we hold that, you're in a good spot to continue. We obviously did for a hot minute, but now you pulled back, right? So if you were to do this as a proper risk management, and I'm just going off of this wick here, let's even just like cut this real quick. All right, boom. So we're cutting the price action, make it look like we're living this live. So, okay, we're living above this region. If I was to get in here and I put a stop loss below this last wick, right? Once again, 3-4%. All right, I can sleep at night, whatever. Granted, this is probably not the best stop loss because it's like right at these highs, but I'm just giving you an example. And then what would your next area to look for a buy-in would be, right? If we were looking at the same thing, if I'm like, all right, I'm buying here, I know it's already rallied, it could pull back, but I'm going to get in here and not risk missing that rally. But maybe I'm only putting, 30% of my position that I'm going to allocate to this. And if it goes, it goes. I'm in the money. And if it pulls back, then I'll look for the retrace, right? And you got a nice local gold pocket, right? So from that swing low to that swing high, that would really be the area I'd look for that next buying opportunity, just off the rip. Let's see where the price goes. Right to it. All right. So you would have been able to get stopped out 3%, right? You took the risk, whatever. I'm out 3% instead of now being down 11 currently, right? and you would have just targeted to buy back in here. And then if we just ended up, coming back to this region and you just ended up buying, then again, you buy this situation and you try that trade again, right? That's just the way it would go if you're going to manage it that tightly. Otherwise, if you're just DCAing in, then, whatever. But just kind of showcasing some different outlooks here. But anyways, for Cardano, I mean, that's pretty much what we did, right? Breakout, back test of the range, ran it up, little rejection at this region, local gold pocket. So, you got the high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I think we continue up, at least into this 80-cent range here, region. And you got the yearly average, which is still going to be the key level to really get back above and live above. Then we got $1.14, $1.42, and then, all the way up into even like the $2 regions there for some next targets. So don't necessarily know if we'll get there anytime soon, but this little realm right here is definitely in the cards, right? And then when we're looking at just some big retracements from the overall high, especially after we break these accumulation ranges, when they get broken, oh, that's actually pretty interesting to note. So yeah, that's a big target up here, but I wouldn't overlook the macro 382, right? So once again, right at that weekly level. So there's just plenty of things along the way that we can manage as we go. But yeah, that's how I'd be looking at Cardano. Let's take a look at Sushi Swap. So Sushi Swap, decentralized exchange, right? Similar to Uniswap, okay? And huge range, right? Breakout, back test. Front ran my quarterly pivot, which was sad, but it is okay. Yeah, and just really the next key level to get above is that 221. And I think if we flip that, it's probably a quick ride up to this gold pocket, that weekly level. Anchored VWAP, obviously, with my arrow from the all-time high. There's just a ton of upside here, I think, on Sushi. And like as we zoom out, and I'm not saying like just hope that this comes out in like a night or something. You can kind of just see how the price action, right? It's just been like accumulation. We're starting to get that uptick here. And if you do, you got plenty of upside. And then obviously there's pullbacks in Bitcoin along the way, which obviously will lead to pullbacks in Sushi. But overall, I think that this area of the chart is an interesting entry area. And I'd be looking to run it back to some of these, potentially even all the way up to like $12 over time. So it's an interesting one. It has been for a while. Avalanche, I got a real simple outlook here, and it's holding pretty well. All right, so ran it up. Last year's average price, boom, was basically the high of the year. Came back, flipped that as soon as we did. Had a local gold pocket here. I'm just going to take these off, honestly. Yeah, I'm really just targeting up to 76 and then 98 macro gold pocket, weekly level, weekly naked point of control. Those are my next two areas there for Avalanche. So, any kind of pullback here, maybe we're pretty much sitting on the 382 now. So, yeah, that's what I'd be looking for. So living above this yearly average is a good sign. Living back below, probably look for that $40 area again. But I think, and this is a good example of what we were just looking at Sushi. Like zoomed out now, look at that huge, consolidation, accumulation, basically just flatlining. You get this huge break and a huge run, right? This was like just last year, in the last quarter of the year, it ran 4.5x, up 600% at the moment. So that's something to consider too, right? This is something that's up 600%. So to me, it's like, do I want to get on this, or do I want to look at something like Sushi that really hasn't ran yet, might not run for a while, and maybe this continues up now? That's always the juggle, right? So it just comes down to your risk management and your patience. I mean, everything takes patience. So yeah, my trade on Bitcoin looks like it's about to automatically TP here at 66K, right? So, but like I said, I do actually anticipate a run probably back to the previous all-time high, but I'm just going to take profit and move. It's not guaranteed by any means. We could very well just come up to this region and just roll it over. For me, once again, I'm going to capture this 5%. Right now it's up 4.5, pretty much there. But yeah, I got the take profit set at 66, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think that's about all I've got for you all. This was a lengthy one. But I'd like to think that there was a lot of educational nuggets in there. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, please let me know. I didn't get a chance to look through some of that. I think that somebody requested the XRP chart. but I honestly didn't get a chance to look through the last comments. But I promise you, Tuesday nights are definitely my, like, I'll scan through all the comments on both the Crypto Insider videos on Saturdays and Tuesdays, and I'll pull out the ones that you guys request heavily, and I'll cover them all for you as much as I can, right? So aside from that, enjoy your weekend, have a great Saturday, and I'll see you all in the next video.